Did you know that South African archaeologists literally hid golden treasures in university storage rooms for decades because they were too embarrassed to admit black Africans created them? Meet Mapungubwe, the kingdom you've never heard of but absolutely should have. From 1075 to 1220, these folks were running the most sophisticated civilization in southern Africa, controlling gold and ivory trade routes like absolute bosses. We're talking 200 years before Europeans even knew Africa existed beyond the coast. In 1932, archaeologists discovered royal burial sites packed with incredible golden artifacts, including a famous golden rhinoceros sculpture that would make modern jewelers weep. The craftsmanship was so advanced, it completely destroyed racist theories about African capabilities. So what did apartheid-era researchers do? They literally shoved everything into storage and pretended it didn't exist. The golden rhino sat in a university basement for decades while textbooks claimed Africans couldn't work metal. Today, Mapungubwe is finally recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, completely rewriting timelines of African wealth and civilization. Sometimes the most shocking cover-ups happen in plain sight. Did you know a medieval African king literally carved 11 churches straight down into solid rock and convinced everyone angels were his night shift workers? In 12th century Ethiopia, King Lalibela had the wildest urban planning idea ever. He wanted to build a new Jerusalem, but instead of building up like a normal person, this absolute madman decided to excavate downward into volcanic rock. We're talking about carving entire churches from the top down, which is basically architectural insanity. Here's where it gets spicy. The work was so impossibly precise that locals started spreading rumors that angels continued construction every night after the human workers went home. Honestly, when you see the Church of St. George's perfect Greek cross shape, you might believe the angel theory too. The engineering is mind-blowing. These churches have sophisticated drainage systems that still work perfectly 800 years later. Underground tunnels connect all 11 churches like some medieval subway system. And get this, 45,000 pilgrims visit annually because these aren't museum pieces, they're still active worship sites. Talk about building something to last. Did you know there were African nomads so wealthy they made European kings look broke? Meet the Tuareg, the legendary blue men of the desert who controlled the Sahara for over 1,000 years. These guys were basically the mafia of the desert. They owned every oasis, every trade route, every shortcut across the world's largest desert. Want to move gold from West Africa to Europe? You paid the Tuareg, salt from the north, Tuareg tax. They charged tribute on everything and everyone crossing their territory. Their nobles got so rich, they wore expensive indigo-dyed robes that literally stained their skin blue permanently. That's where the nickname came from. Imagine being so wealthy that your clothes dye you blue and you're totally fine with it. These weren't just lucky bandits either. They had their own written language called Tifinagh, built massive trading cities in the middle of nowhere, and their camel warriors could navigate trackless desert like GPS. They accumulated more wealth than entire European kingdoms by controlling the flow of African gold and salt for centuries. Did you know that one guy accidentally finding some shiny rocks literally ended African rule over their own gold fields forever? In 1886, Australian prospector George Harrison was just wandering around South Africa when he stumbled across what turned out to be the richest gold reef on Earth. This wasn't just any discovery. This was the Witwatersrand find that would change everything. Within 2 years, 100,000 fortune seekers invaded the area like locusts. They built Johannesburg practically overnight, completely bulldozing the Ndebele and Tswana kingdoms that had controlled this land for centuries. These African rulers went from being masters of their ancestral territory to being pushed aside by gold-crazy foreigners. The numbers are absolutely insane. Over 1.5 billion ounces of gold have been pulled from this ground, worth trillions in today's money. South Africa became the world's biggest gold producer. But here's the twisted part. All that wealth funded the apartheid system that oppressed the very people whose land it came from. One accidental discovery, and African control over their own gold fields was finished forever. Did you know that a 15-year-old girl once accidentally handed an entire kingdom to their enemies? This is the wild story of Nonkululeko, a teenage Xhosa prophetess who changed South African history forever. In 1856, Nonkululeko claimed her ancestors visited her with an incredible message. They told her that if the Xhosa people killed all their cattle and destroyed all their crops, dead warriors would rise from the earth to drive out the British colonizers once and for all. Word spread like wildfire across Xhosa territory. Believing this was their chance for freedom, people slaughtered 400,000 cattle and burned their grain stores. They waited for their salvation, but the dead warriors never came. Instead, 40,000 people starved to death in the famine that followed. The once powerful Xhosa kingdoms were left completely defenseless. The British couldn't believe their luck. They easily conquered the weakened territories without a fight. The bitter irony? A prophecy meant to save the Xhosa people from colonial rule instead delivered them straight into British hands. One teenager's vision reshaped an entire continent. Did you know that one British raid in 1897 stole so much incredible African art that Europeans literally couldn't believe black people made it? The Kingdom of Benin in Nigeria was absolutely loaded. They controlled all the trade routes, and their palace was covered floor to ceiling with the most stunning bronze plaques you've ever seen. These weren't just pretty decorations. They told the entire royal history going back centuries with detail that would make Renaissance artists jealous. But Britain wanted that trade money for themselves, so they invaded, calling it a punitive expedition, because that sounds way better than "we're here to rob you blind." British officers grabbed over 4,000 artifacts during their raid. When European art experts saw these bronzes back home, their minds were blown. The metalwork was so sophisticated, they refused to believe Africans created them. Today, these Benin bronzes are scattered across Western museums, and there's this massive international fight to return them. One single heist completely rewrote what Europeans thought Africans were capable of, while destroying one of history's greatest cultural treasures.